What is up, Ravens flock? Huge shout out for your support for the 410 Sports Talk. James and Glenn are the best in the business. They're killing it right now. They love talking Raven talk. Make sure you go subscribe to their channel. Let's go Ravens. Big trust.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm James Haskell, along with my co-host Glenn Martin, and we got some business to get into tonight. I'm really excited about this show. We're going to talk about one Ravens wide receiver, but before we do, make sure to take a quick second, support the show, and stay up to date with all your Ravens news by hitting the subscribe button. Also, turn your notifications on because we are pumping out these videos when it comes to the Ravens off-season plans. Season 3 has commenced, Glenn. Yesterday, we officially put season 3, episode 1 on the pod. Anywhere you listen to the podcast, if you are a audio consumer of this show, if you listen to it outside of YouTube. So anyway, the Ravens receiver is Marquise Brown. What are we talking about here today, Glenn?
Yeah, my question is simply this: has Marquise Brown shown you and other Ravens fans enough that says that he deserves a contract extension? Now, first, the Ravens have to pick up his 5th-year option, but after that, they would need to sign him to a contract extension in order for him to stay here in Baltimore. And look, Hollywood Brown has been the focus to a lot of criticism from fans and even on this show. I mean, we both had our opportunities to kind of voice our grievances with him, but I just want to take a deeper dive into, are those grievances, is this something we maybe are being a little hard on him about, or are these frustrations legit and we have every right to kind of take them to task a little bit?
Yeah, I can't wait to get into this. So
let me give you a bit of an overview of his career.
Yeah. Kind of talk to you about, give him an overview and kind of talk about the numbers that you were reading that brought that kind of incited this idea, because I think it does bring some perspective that's worth considering.
Yeah, absolutely. So in his first season as a Baltimore Ravens in 2019, Hollywood had 46 catches for 584 yards and 7 touchdowns. In his second season in 2020, he increased in both categories, all three, in fact. He then had 58 catches for 769 yards and 8 touchdowns. So he had 12 more catches, nearly 200 more yards, and 1 more touchdown. And then this past season, he really exploded in those first 2 categories. Had now 91 catches for 1,008 yards and 6 touchdowns. So absolutely destroyed his previous mark as far as receptions, going from 58 to 91, as well as his mark in receiving yards, going from 769 to 1,008. Just 6 touchdowns, which most of those 6 came early, so certainly petered down the stretch when it comes to receiving touchdowns. But nonetheless, I think we can agree he's at least shown progression every season since being a Baltimore Raven from a statistical standpoint.
Yeah.
I think we can agree there.
I can't disagree with you yet.
Okay, and now let's get into some of the other issues. When we talk about Marquise, a lot of the issues that we have for him surround the drops that he has. That's a big issue from fans in Baltimore. And so this past season, he had 7 drops, which was a career high for him. Had 6 the previous year, so he had seven drops. Now, also, just to keep in perspective, I want to give you some other big names, some big-time players out there across the league that I think every Ravens fan would be happy to have these guys on our team. I'm going to start with the best receiver in football this year. The best receiver in football, hands down, this year was Cooper Kupp. It was really no debate. He had 8 drops this year. So he had 1 more drop than did Marquise Brown. Now, he did have a ton more targets. So, in fairness to him, he was the best receiver. He had a drop percentage of 4.2, whereas Marquise Brown had a drop percentage of 4.8. So worse, but you're talking 0.6 of a percentage, right? So you're talking 0.5%. Now, Ja'Marr Chase lit the league on fire, right? Absolutely exploded as a rookie, broke a bunch of records, had 1,400 yards, 81 catches, had a bunch of impressive plays. Where Marquise had 7 drops, Ja'Marr Chase had 11.
Mm-hmm. And what was his rate?
Marquise's drop rate was 4.8. Jamar's 8.6, nearly double his drop rate. I found that to be interesting. Another guy, I think most guys happy to have this guy on our team, although I think we like our guy better, Travis Kelce. He's a pretty good player, right? Travis Kelce, not a receiver, but a tight end, but he's still a hell of a player. Travis Kelce had 8 drops this year and a drop percentage of 7.5%. So quite a bit worse, right? Tyreek Hill, equal drops, 7 drops, 4.4 drop percentage. So 4.4, 4.6, not a ton different there. Keenan Allen, known for his hands, not a guy who's necessarily a burner, known for his route running and his ability to hold onto the ball when it touches his hands. He had 8 drops, one more than Hollywood, with a 5.1% drop percentage, so worse than Hollywood's drops. CeeDee Lamb, another guy who kind of exploded last year and is certainly one of the ascending and most talented receivers in football, again, had 8 drops, more than Hollywood, and he had a 6.7 drop percentage, also higher than Hollywood Brown. And then just to I guess I'm only bringing up because I'm just amazed by his numbers and the clear, to me, guy that has the best hands in all of football, and it's not even debatable, Devontae Adams. I had to bring him up. He had 1 drop last year, 1 drop, and his drop percentage last year, Jimbo, was 0.7, less than 1%. Now this year it ballooned to 3 total drops and a 1.8% drop rate. So it's clear that guy's on a whole nother level. But as you can see, I brought a bunch of guys in a comparison that had more drops and a higher drop rate. So you can't even talk targets at that point. So are we being a little unfair in some of our criticisms of Hollywood Brown?
No, we are not. Normally I would agree with you, Glenn, but I am. And if you think we're being harsh, I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. In fact, I think Hollywood's getting a little bit of a pass. I think he's been getting a little bit of a pass for too long. Glenn, let me remind you that he was the number 1 receiver taken out of his draft class. Not number 2, not number 3, number 10, number 1. Okay. And I want to bring up a couple other guys who are number 1 receivers in their own right in the NFL. Tell me if you'd rather have Marquise Brown over AJ Brown.
Well, I mean, if you
yes or no?
I'm not ready to answer that.
Oh, all right. What about DK Metcalf?
Look, it's easy for us to look
at
other.
Hold on, you got to let me get my points out here. Hold on here. So you got Terry McLaurin. You got.
By the way, AJ Brown had more drops and a higher drop percentage than.
That's fine, but I'd still rather have him on our football team, and I'm going to explain to you why.
Thank you.
Yeah, Terry McLaurin, he's a pretty good football player. Deebo Samuel, pretty good football player. Deontay Johnson has a case of the drops himself. My point is that all of these guys were taken after Hollywood Brown. Okay. Fair. And so for me with Hollywood Brown, it's this. I feel like a decent amount of this year, not all, but a decent amount of his numbers, I've said this phrase before, is starting to me to feel a little bit like an empty calories thing, like a Kirk Cousins thing. Like there's numbers there. I don't know how impactful all these plays are, because for me, it's the optics of the thing. Big time plays in big time moments make big time players. And right now, when you think of Hollywood Brown, do you think of big time plays in big time moments? There are a few that might come to your mind. I think of the Broncos catch. I think of the catch against the Colts. I think that was the 2-point conversion. That was also that was also another big one. But I think of a lot of big drops. I think of, once again, the optics of the thing. The plays in fourth quarter, the not seeming to be too excited about getting the football in the fourth quarter, the stepping out of bounds when the defender is a few yards off, the not wanting to turn up field. Now, we saw this at the first half of the year. It was not sustained throughout the whole year, where he's wanting to put his foot down and turn up the field. And so for me, for Ravens fans, knowing what the Ravens culture is, knowing, as ourselves being Ravens fans, what type of players we endear ourselves with here in Baltimore, doing that, and it to me looks a little bit like, I feel like it's a Baltimore thing. People here don't like entitlement. And like when you do things like that, it seems a little bit like you've arrived. Like you've earned the right to just go out of bounds because I'm Marquise Brown. Sorry, Marquise. You haven't. So battle your butt upfield. Like get a couple extra yards, get a couple extra feet, a couple of extra inches. I don't care. Like move upfield. show a little bit more passion and want to. Don't stand at the podium and say you want Super Bowls and this, that, and the other. You can say it. Show us. Big time players make big time plays in big time moments. I don't know if I've seen that yet from Hollywood Brown. The passion, the want to is everything for me. And so as of right now, Glenn, the contract extension is a to be determined. The 5th year, $13 million is a to be determined. And give me just 30 more seconds here. And this is why I want to tell you. This is I'm just going to go down a list real quick.
Okay.
And I just want to name a few. You tell me when to stop. Okay?
In regards to, okay.
Who you'd rather have. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Keenan Allen. I'm just going to keep listening. I can't see you, so you tell me when to stop. Okay?
Stop. Keenan Allen is old man now. Are you telling me prime Keenan Allen or right now Keenan Allen? Or does it not matter to you?
No, it doesn't matter to me. Keenan Allen is one of the best route. I don't care that he's older than Marquise Brown. He's a better football player than Marquise Brown. But I'm not saying for the next 5 years, maybe for next season. For next season.
All right. That makes it a little bit more. Okay.
All right, for next season. Keenan Allen. There's a few bad ones in here. Michael Thomas, healthy.
Well, if he's healthy, of course.
Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
Mike Evans.
Okay.
Adam Thielen.
Okay.
Chris Godwin.
Okay.
Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
Jarvis Landry.
No.
Oof.
Hell no.
We're split on that one. I like Jarvis a lot. But so
look,
$13 million would put him in the, there's some people obviously he's better than, but $13 million a year would put him in the range. Stephon Diggs is getting Stephon Diggs is getting 14.4. Stephon Diggs is getting $1.5 million more. That's a tip on a waiter's check. Like, that's a 10% more.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I'm not handing him out $13 million. I think Hollywood Brown is getting a pass. I think it's TBD. I think he's a show out in big moments. That's all I'm saying.
Well, okay. So let me just rebut that argument a little bit. Okay. First of all, you can't just compare apples to oranges and just go comparing everyone that's maybe in a more pass happy offense to what we're doing here in Baltimore. I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily.
I didn't bring up stats though. I just said names, like based on your eyes.
Yeah, but those names. Okay. Yeah, but it's easier for Ravens fans to look at what other teams do and fall in love with them because half the time Ravens fans are only seeing those guys on highlight reels on ESPN. Whereas when you watch the Ravens, you watch every play, you dissect every play, and you're more critical against your own team than you are everywhere else. When you actually, take a more granular look at that specific team or player, you realize that they have a lot of shortcomings just as the Ravens do. And if you listen to sports talk in their town, they're just as critical of their guy as we are of our guy. So I'm going to compare them against guys here in Baltimore. There's only one player the Ravens have drafted that has had even close to the success at the receiver position that Marquise has had, and that's Tory Smith.
Yeah.
Okay, and that was 1 year. One year that he went over 1,000 yards. So I think we're being
now let me say one other thing about Tory though.
Okay. Big moments.
Big plays.
And that's where I can't really rebuttal. That's the point where I can't really argue. Because you're right.
You talk about stark differences?
Yeah, Tory made some big plays in big moments. So it's hard for me to really argue that point. I do think that he needs to step up in big moments. I think he has, like you mentioned a couple earlier in the year, where he did make the game-deciding play, and he made the game-winning catch. Now, we've also seen where he came up a little shy in some of those big moments.
And I might still be a little hurt about that sideline drop.
Yeah, that hurt.
We're standing out in the cold. We paid good money for these tickets. Catch the football, bro.
That hurt. But at the same time, in his best season, in Tory's best year here, from a yardage standpoint, he only had 4 touchdowns. But then his worst season here from a yardage standpoint, he had 11 touchdowns. So it's really like,
right, you can't just count the touchdowns.
Yeah, it's kind of different each year. But all I'm saying is I think that what we've seen from Marquise is that every year he's gotten better. He's gotten more catches. He's gotten more yards, and he's shown a little bit more what we wanted to see from that ability to make guys miss, the yak yards.
Why did he stop this year?
That's the whole thing with me.
You know what
because
I'm saying? It was
earlier
so
this
weird.
year
It was
we
like
were
a
like,
switch. It was just on off.
Yeah, and earlier in the year we were like, wow, we're really seeing it. Like we're seeing him make guys miss. But the thing that I just can't, it's hard for me to defend is his yak yards. Because earlier in the year, he had those yards we wanted. Like he had the yak that we were looking for. But when you compare him to guys around the league, it's hard for me to make an argument. Like, yeah, does Keenan Allen have a ton? No. But Keenan Allen has never been known for his speed and make you miss ability.
That's not what he got drafted for.
Exactly. He's known for his route running, his ridiculous hands, and his ability to win 50-50 balls. So that's not really, that's not really his game. But when you compare him to guys that are in similar fashion, who are used as their deep threat for their team, I mean, I look at Jamar Chase almost double, his yak yards. So that to me is where the frustration from Baltimore fans are just because it's far too often he's taking the easy way out. He's going out of bounds a couple yards shy. He's going down a little bit earlier than he should have. He's not, most of the time when you see a receiver faced with two guys coming in, kind of trying to box him in, what do? They put their head down, they try and split them and try and get a couple yards. Not so much from Hollywood. Yeah, not so much from Hollywood. So while we're not asking for him to stiff arm a guy into the ground.
Right. We know you're not DK Metcalf physically. Like, we get that. We're not stupid.
Right. By the way, I would definitely take DK. I looked up his numbers, and he is damn near Devontae Adams as far as his ridiculous drop numbers being so low. Like, unbelievable drop numbers. So I'll give you that it doesn't look good when guys selected after him in his same draft class have great success. But I'll say that I think Hollywood is already our second best receiver we've ever drafted already right now. And there's no reason to expect when you look at the trend that next year he's likely to surpass what Tory's done from a statistical standpoint.
How much of that do you think statistically, right? Because that might be all the Marquise actually cares about. I don't know. I have to be proven he has to prove to me otherwise because stats go out the window when you're fighting for an extra yard. But stats are absolutely in the calculation. When you step out of bounds, you're like, that was a good catch for 12. I'm good. You know what I mean? Like, I checked off my job, right? Like, I did my part type thing. There's no extra mile. There's no nothing. How much of the precipitous drop that we saw, Lamar's gone. And all of a sudden, Tyler just doesn't feel like throwing him the football. Not as much. All of a sudden, he's throwing the ball more to Rashad. Like, why? You see what I'm saying? Like, what did Tyler see? Or what trust doesn't he have in Hollywood? To me, if you're a backup quarterback coming in, you're not playing with these guys a ton anyway. So it's about who's actually the most available option. You don't have these biases that exist inside you because of relationships, right? Because you're not out there rubbing shoulders with these guys every single day. So that's interesting to me as well in this whole combination because a lot of it has to do with the fact that Lamar's like a jug machine for Hollywood Brown.
Yeah, but I mean, did we say the same criticisms about Rashad Bateman when Lamar wasn't feeding him the ball? Or did we say, well, they just got to work out their chemistry and it's not necessarily a reflection on Rashad? So is it really fair to say it's a reflection on Hollywood that the backup doesn't throw him the ball as often? To me, I'm not ready to say that's a reflection on Hollywood. I just think that he had a more natural chemistry with Rashad and everyone has great chemistry with Mark Andrews, it seems like.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no doubt that Lamar fed him the ball and the target share, indicates that. But all I'm saying is Hollywood Brown is already the second best receiver we've ever taken in the history of this team. So let's not just be ready to ball him up and throw him out the door.
I'm not saying throw him out the door. I specifically said.
Well, you don't want to pick up his option.
No. There's a lot of field to travel between now and the option being picked up as a foregone conclusion.
But
I don't want to pick it up right now.
You pick it up now.
Right now? No.
That's when you do it. If you have faith in your guy, you're telling me.
Well, I'm not picking it up right now.
But what more does he? I mean, it's just if you were his agent, pretend you're his agent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, are you incensed right now? Are you looking at this and going, wait a minute, he just went over 1,000. How many receivers in your history of your organization have gone over 1,000? How many? Because you can count on one hand. And this guy just did it. He just did it, and he's only getting better. We can all agree he's getting better because the numbers show every year he's gotten better.
Mhm.
So if I was his agent, I'd be going, you're not picking up my guy's option for
Mhm.
what?
Yeah,
Because
and
you don't like the optics of him stepping out a yard shot? Like, I mean, I'd be a
yeah.
little bit, I think
Look,
I'd be a little pissed.
football is if you're just going to go by statistics, that's why people have made the ridiculous error of paying Kirk Cousins stupid amounts of money every single year. Like you said somebody's got to catch it. Somebody's got to run. Like
Mhm.
somebody's got to do it, especially when you got a good quarterback and you're a decent football team. Somebody's got to do it. So if it's not Mark Andrews, it's going to be Marquise Brown. And so I'm not just giving out $13 million in his 5th year. All I'm saying is I want to see a couple more reassurances. Marquise, give me what you did for the first 7 games of the season for an entire season, and I will be more than happy to say, here's your check, my man, and there's much more to come. That's all I'm asking for. Just put it together for a season. Just put it together. Not from a statistics standpoint. In fact, throw the stats out the window. Just play aggressive and hungry. Like, that's all I want. Attack the football and play like your hair's on fire. Like, that's all I want from Hollywood.
Play with desperation a little bit more.
Yeah, like I don't want the trotting and the shoulder shrugging and the going out of bounds and the falling forward and the like.
Is this something he can ever shake completely?
I do think that part of the reason he did better at that this year was because he had more confidence in his body. I got to give him credit. Every single year he's gotten bigger, he's gotten stronger, and I think you can only expect him. You talked about his statistical progression. You can only expect him to do the same. I have complete confidence that he'll hit the gym and hit the gym hard. We've heard it from the horse's mouth, from his personal trainer in the offseason, that Hollywood's a gym rat. And I believe it because if you look at his body with the pads off every single year, he's done it. But he's got to string it together on the football field. Hopefully, that translates into a full season of like you're saying, playing with some desperation. Play like you want it. And that's just what I want to see. I don't know if there's any stats that align to that, but it's just got to be a little bit more of that.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely has some area to improve, but me personally, I'm gonna continue to have faith that he will continue his ascension. And if this is the worst version of what we're gonna see from Hollywood over the next 5 years, because we expect him to continue to get better, then I'm okay with that. But I think what you're pointing to is the fact that in his last 3 games, Jimbo, his catch percentage on targets was 55%, then 37%, then 42%. That's got to come up.
Yeah.
And his yards per target. Because earlier in the year, Jimbo, yards per target was 11 in game 1, then 11 in game 2, 7.5, 18, 12 in the first 5 games. His last 5 games, 5, 3, 4, 3, and 3.
Yeah, didn't he have double-digit catches against Green Bay with under 50 yards receiving?
He had 14 targets, 10 catches, 43 yards.
That's a problem. Like, how can you be the fastest guy on the football field, that was drafted for that speed and not have the ability to do a little bit more in the yak yard department? And then on top of that, Glenn, because they know he's fast, you remember how much they were laying off him?
And
make
that's
a
why
guy miss.
Yeah, that's why he got all those grabs. But you're right. You make one guy miss, typically
to the
you're
house.
Picking up, or at least you're picking up 15, 20 in a first down.
And certainly with your speed, there's no reason why a couple of those couldn't break. I mean, if Jamar Chase can do it, why? As far as like making a guy miss and then the potential to take it to the house, I realize they're 2 physically different guys from a size perspective, but as far as, being able to take something in the house, he certainly has every single ability that anybody else in the NFL does. So yeah, I just want to see that. So me, it's TBD. It's really that simple. And look, I want nothing more than to give him that. But let me make my point really quickly. I know this has gone way longer than we anticipated, but I think it's good. I want to make one more point here. While the statistics are good, when we drafted Hollywood Brown, just be honest here, Glenn. What were your expectations as far as like, did you believe that he could be or did you expect the Ravens to draft him? Let me ask this correctly. As a number 1 wide receiver?
Yeah.
And do you today believe that he has the ability to be a number 1 wide receiver in the NFL?
Man, it's such a tough call. I mean, because there's so many different shapes and sizes and versions of a number 1. Like, is Tyreek Hill not a number 1? He is,
right? He is a number 1, yeah.
And he does it a very different way than a guy like DK Metcalf does it.
Right.
So do I think he has the potential? Yes, I think he's
Okay.
got the potential because we know he's got the speed, right? We know he's. I mean, look, his route running. You can say what you want. The guy can run routes, and
Yep.
we got the best technician is teaching route running already on the payroll. So I think he'll. It's just the question I have is does he have like that dog mentality that I think you need to be a number one, where when the ball's in the air, like Tyreek Hill doesn't care that he's smaller than the defender. He
Just
doesn't
goes and
care that
gets
the
it.
guy has longer arms. He believes when that ball is in the air that it's his. It's only his. And so that's the part I'm still a little unsure of. Does he have the mentality? Because I think he's got the skill set. I mean, he's never going to grow taller, but I think he's got the skill set. It's just, does he have the mentality? And that part I'm a little unsure of.
And the reason I asked that question is because certainly I believe that the Ravens staff, front office and coaching has, without saying anything to Marquise directly, recalibrated their expectations for one Marquise Brown. If not, to me, I don't know if you bring in a Rashad Bateman. The Ravens would have been more than happy to go somewhere else in that draft. But I think they go get a Bateman because they say Marquise can be a really good number two, and we might be able to pay him that way. He's not a number one, and I think that's why they got Rashad. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens.
All the great teams have
more than
multiple big-time targets. Every single one of them. So
absolutely.
And let me ask you this one last question. With what you've seen from him already, do you think he'll be better next year than he was this year?
I would expect him to be, at least statistically, but I don't know if I can
he's
see
better than he was this year.
I don't know if I can see any more of what I want to see. I'm not confident in that. He's got to show me some of that. Like statistically, sure.
But every year he's gotten better. And if that means he gets better statistically, then you're talking over 100 catches and you're talking 1,200 plus yards. That's hard to like sneeze at when you're talking about a Ravens receiver.
Let me answer this way. There's a better chance that he will show me what I need. He will check the boxes in my mind, what I need to see. There's a better chance of that happening than him having over 100 targets and 100 catches and 1,200 yards next year.
Wow. Okay. Because you think Bateman's role increases?
Yeah, absolutely.
Duvernay's role. Okay.
Right. So that's the way he gets his contract, dude. He's got to take advantage of every opportunity he gets to get that football, because it's not going to be like this next year. Bateman's going to be nipping on his heels. Even a guy like Prochet is going to take away a few targets. You talked about Duvernay.
But Watkins will likely be gone.
Yeah, certainly. But I mean, Duvernay did more than him in one. No, I'm being sarcastic there, but there's going to be guys nipping at his heels. It's not just going to be free reign. You get a pass, you're a first rounder. All hail Marquise Brown. Them boys are hungry and they're ready to eat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
okay. All right, well, let us know what you guys think. That's what matters to us most. Has Marquise shown you enough to warrant not just the 5th-year option, which Jimmy's still a little bit too TBD on, but also a contract extension? And does the factor that he's the best friend of our franchise quarterback matter at all? I think it does to the front office. Does it matter to you guys at home when you're weighing your decision-making process? I mean, let us know what you guys think all in the comments below, and we will talk soon.